Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Wandance Season 1, Episode 9. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, obviously, we get to see Kabe, well, I guess Kotaro, because he ends up going up in a, I know it's such an old school term, but whatever, I don't care. But we see him go up against this guy, and obviously some people were bad-mouthing him at first because they're like, oh, he's a b-boy, and like how they dance to the music, they are kind of frowned upon. So it definitely seems like Kabe comes into this with like a little like chip on his shoulder, like throughout the episode, because obviously he feels the need to like prove himself and show people up. It's like, oh, like, you know, there are people who, like, what was it he said, like they dance to the beat. I forgot the exact phrasing he gave at the beginning of the episode. It was something like that, where it's like people like follow the beat. He kind of, not necessarily creates the beat. I forgot how he phrased it. It's almost like your followers, I'm more of a leader type of situation. So it seems like he's kind of got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because maybe, I mean, we also saw, was it last episode, him getting berated at work. So I think dance is probably his way to vent his frustrations about that. So like, that's probably like, dance is where he really puts that all out there and vents it all, where it's just kind of like at work you kind of have to take it, then you're hearing people badmouth you in like the dancing world. So it's like, you know what, I'm gonna prove you wrong. So I mean, it's all about expression, right? So it expressing your way itself in ways you probably typically can't, you know. So all that gets like vented and, you know, thrown out there on the dance floor essentially. So we also cut to Kabo and Iori doing some dance practices. What was it, like in between breaks at school or something like that? Or just maybe just, I know it's specifically during their lunch period they're doing that. And so obviously Kabo's always been enamored by Iori. He said, oh man, the way Iori like moves to house music is so cool. And he brings up this interesting thing where he's like, with Meow, following what she wanted, I won. But following what Iori wanted, I lost. But he really connects with the way Iori dances. Like both are fundamental and important to him. But he just pointed out the interesting thought process because he does gravitate more toward the Iori style, even though he lost with it last episode. It's still kind of like, yeah, he's feeling it a little bit more. So. And obviously he's gravitating a little more towards house, like, oh, he wants to dance house, like, with Iori, and Iori's like, oh, that's interesting, because he's like, initially, he's like, I didn't like house at first, because he's like, usually it takes people a while to kind of get into dancing more, and then they eventually start liking house, but because even he didn't, because he ends up bringing up the whole Kabe of it all, where it's like, he went up against Kabe, and like, because he started off breaking and then went into house, but it's because when he went up against Kabe, he lost when it came to breaking, but then like he transitioned into house, and that's kind of been his repertoire ever since. But like he's like, on the surface, me and Kabe seem like we get on, but he hears that like Kabe badmouths a lot of people behind their backs, which I don't know if that's like 100% true. I mean, this feels like the nature of what the series could be, of just like, oh, everyone's like misunderstanding each other. It's like he probably doesn't always like present himself the best way. I mean, and I feel like maybe there's a little bit of a character trait there where it's like he only pulls his mask down when he's dancing just to kind of, I think, breathe a little easier. But like it's almost like I think that's his shield from the world. In a sense, I don't know if it's like a defense mechanism because he's so used to people talking crap on him. Now he kind of turns it around. But like I said, it could just be a misunderstanding on Iori's part, like the clashing of their personalities. Because like, oh, we get along well because I'm sure there's overlap between them. But then also like maybe they are so similar that they do clash because of that. I don't know. Then you have Kabo and Wanda being invited out by Iori to like, you know, meet up with like some b-boys and do some breaking and stuff. And I love that they show up there. And I just love the look on Kabo's face when he gets a text from Iori being like, yeah, sorry about that, I'm gonna be late. And you have Kabo just looking up almost like frustrated because first and foremost, these are people he knows, they don't know, and he's an awkward person, and it's just like, oh, jumping into like something, it's like, oh, like I thought you'd be here to kind of be the buffer between us, but now you're not, so like, what do we do? And Wanda's like, oh, we'll just kind of dance. And the guys come over because they're like, whoa, Wanda, we saw the video, that's so awesome. And they're like, hey, Kabo. And then you kind of go over, it's like, wait, we should ask him, right? And you go over to him, it's like, yo, it's she your girlfriend? And he's like, no. And it's like, oh, because they were like, okay, cool. Because it's like, oh, you guys showed up together. We also saw the video, you guys dancing together. So I'm like, is there something between you? It's like, well, obviously, I think Cabo would want them there to be, but I don't think. It's so interesting because he definitely likes Wanda and Wanda likes him, but like I think it's the thing of he doesn't think with everything going on, he's probably trying to like be satisfied enough with them just being friends, but obviously he does want more because he wants to keep up with her because he doesn't want to get left behind because he feels like the further he becomes behind, the bigger the gap between them, and he wants the gap to be closer because he likes her and he cares for her, and like she's the first person that kind of was able to kind of properly reach out to him to understand him, so obviously that means a lot to him. But obviously, you have like Wanda doing her popping. Obviously, she's learned a lot of it from Meow, and then like you have our boy Cabo doing his own thing too. I can't remember if that was during the. I think it was. I think it's during this sequence when he's dancing. I think it might have been just before even the cipher element where he like it did that kind of. Oh God, it's not sepia. I don't know what the terminology is, but it's like that like inversion of the colors. Like it's like I forgot the exact terminology for that, like that style of like effect, color grading essentially. I forgot what it's called, but like I think it was during that sequence and stuff like that. And obviously Kabe shows up. I think it was during this sequence, yeah, that Kabe was nearby and he was watching and he was really getting into it. And even some of the guys are like, oh, that's interesting. You never really see Kabe like really, really kind of get into something like that. But that might have been after the fact. But either way, Iori finally shows up and it's like, all right, we're going to kind of do a cipher, which in the grand scheme of things, it makes sense that a cipher would be a thing in dancing too. But I mean, my mind, because I probably have seen ciphers in like the few dance movies I've seen and stuff like that. But it's been so long that it never registered to me because like I'm more familiar with like a rap cipher. So, but like there being a dance cipher makes a lot of sense. And like I said, I probably have seen one. I've just never thought to associate it with like a cipher. But either way, that they're basically going to do one, and obviously kind of jumping both Cabo and Wanda into the deep end. And I love that Iori's trying to teach her like some breaking, and he's like, okay, he's like, you start off with I forgot the term they use, but he's like, oh, you start off, was it top rock? He's like, yeah, you start off with this and just do it. And she's like, okay, she does it. He's like, oh, cool. I figured she'd grasp me. He's like, oh, thank goodness. I was like, oh. Because Iori, it just comes so natural. Like, he's never been the teaching type. He's never been it. I mean, because him and Cabo are kind of very free-flowing. I mean, to be fair, he's teaching Cabo a little bit, too, of like, oh, you should do this to move into this early on in the episode. But I think for him, it's like teaching, maybe teaching a lot of people like this. Because like, he just kind of like does it and he waits for like, Cabo just to pick it up and kind of gives him some ideas on how to do it, but like teaching's not his thing. Like Meow excels at it, so he's kind of like, oh, thank goodness I just explained it to her. I didn't know she'd get it, but like, oh, thank goodness, because he doesn't know how to properly. He even says later on, he's like, oh, Meow will probably do a better job of like teaching, because he's like, that's just not my thing. Of just, it's kind of like you pick it up, you do it or you don't type of thing for him. It's just, I think that's just how his brain operates. That's how he operates, because like teaching doesn't come like. Maybe it feels like it comes a lot more natural to Meow than it does Iori, and it kind of fits their personalities. Whereas like Meow's very like collective heavy, whereas Iori's kind of very like on his own, like isolated heavy in a way. So, but yeah, after doing some breaking and stuff like that, some dancing, obviously they go into the cipher, and it's pretty dope. The back and forth, everyone's moves. Obviously, you're ending with a freeze and stuff like that. I love the Wanda one, especially because it switches between the CGI animated and then that to like the regular animation, and just like especially when she got like the lightning striking her going and then falling. I was like, what? And then she goes. They're like, oh, that was her transition to get to the ground. I was like, oh, that was actually really dope. But then it kind of seems like she's a little sporadic a little later on, because it's like, all right, she hasn't fully grasped it, and Eeyore's kind of clapping her, be like, oh, good job, because he feels like, I kind of failed her, because like she got part of that beginning right, but then the later part kind of a little fell apart. She's getting there, but it's just like, right, it's just, like I said, that's why popping's so easy for her, because like she like really synchronized with Meow later on, and it continues to, because like Meow does a really good job of describing it and stuff like that. So I thought that was so fascinating. And then you get to like Kabe's part, and he kind of went crazy. Like he does a lot of those, like especially once again, I'm not the dance savant, and I don't know the terminology, but like those hand twirls and stuff. Like I'm like, yo, he goes like bananas with those. Like it's insane, and that he really heavily leans into that. Not that it's a problem, but it's just like he goes crazy with that, and it's just because he just wants to show off more. It's so interesting too because it seems like he really like, and maybe that'll end up being kind of his folly as like a dancer, is that he puts so much effort in the media, which isn't, you should always put in effort, but like he probably tires himself out because because like there's a whole conversation about like, because I think he'd even was suggesting like, oh, like he was worried like Cabo, and then we're just going to be like Cabo in particular, like, oh, he's just going to do flashy moves, but it's like, no, there's something more to it. I'm feeling it, you know? So he's taking an interest in Cabo. In fact, he's actually the one that suggested Cabo do like a specific routine. And Iori kind of talks to him about it later on, where it's like in dance club and stuff like that, having a routine, that's kind of part of it. Street battles, you kind of more free flow. You don't really have like a routine. So for Kabe to kind of set that up like that, I guess he wanted to see whether or not Cabo could do it. And it's like, oh, you did it, and like, you know, I gave you this instruction, you did it, and follow. It's like, oh, you're pretty dope. So I think for him, it's like, I'm not freestyle, and I've seen you do your thing, but it's like I really want to see like how far you can push yourself. So I think that's what it was. But Iori's like, you typically don't do that during street battles. Like that's a choreographed routine isn't really that. And even Cabo was like, yeah. At the time, I kind of felt like I might have been doing something wrong, but like I just couldn't bring myself to say anything because it's like, right, this is someone he knew he's meeting, and also like there's also the element of my stutter. It's like, what if I don't get my words out enough time? So I'm like, I don't want to have to. It's once again, it's that thing of like, it's a thing you have to live with every day. And just having to re-explain it to new people. It's just kind of like and I think all that does is just kind of chip away at Cabo's confidence in its own right. So, but I mean, the whole cipher thing ended up being really dope. And thought that was interesting. But yeah, going back to it, Cabo's thinking about the fact is with the intern battle coming up, he's like, yeah, like the most likely like probably will run into Kabe at that competition and stuff, because I think because this also is something Cabo had picked up, where he was like, it seems like not only Iori but even Kabe, they talk down on the dance class, and he doesn't like that. And he's like, oh, I bet you guys aren't even going to enter in dance, but he said we are going to, and it's just like, I think Cabo just doesn't like the way people like those two in particular, putting down, like he feels like they look down upon it. But it's interesting because I think Iori makes it clear that his perspective on things has changed. He brings up like, you know, before the dance battle last episode between him and Meow, they had a disagreement because she's like, the dance club isn't what you think it is. You know, you've got your preconceived notion. She's like, oh, how about this? How about I challenge you to a one-on-one battle, and you know, if you lose, and he's like, seriously? And then he actually sat in and saw what happened. He's like, oh, because he's coming at this from the perspective of, because the dance club is what it was, and he thought the dance club was what it was back in his first year. He hasn't really seen it subsequently since Meow took over, I think. And so for him, he was just like, oh, I got what I want. Like, this isn't my scene. So he just kind of bailed on it, and he never bothered coming back to see like, oh, it's not the same. It's different, because he's like even bringing up the fact is that like, I think Meow uses breaking as kind of like this point of like entry for it all, that ends up being the thing that, you know, makes you a better dancer on the long run. Like kind of like her approach to it is different from what Cabo experienced in his first year, and like that's the preconceived notion of like, oh, he's like, the club is going to stay the same, but he underestimated like Meow's approach and how good it is, and how different her approach would be from when he was there his first year. So he's come to appreciate it more, and I think for Cabo that means a lot for him to be like, oh, okay, so even you've kind of changed your perspective on it. And he even shows Iori his phone, and it's like I think he called it a starter card, because basically he's like, I speak slowly, but essentially I do get my word. Like, I forgot the exact phrasing of it, but for Cabo, he's like, this way, like no one ever has to like, anytime I want to talk to somebody, I'm gonna flash this. So like, it's kind of like his like immediate like, let me cut this off to the past and let you know I have a stutter. I'm going to talk slow. Give me time. You know, I will get my thoughts across. It might just take me a second, so be patient with me. And just kind of like putting that on Front Street, it's just kind of his easy, because that way it's just like I don't have to like just bite my tongue and not say what I want to say, just because I'm too nervous to have to explain everything and just not feel like I can get my words out. It's like, no, I want to be more honest when I'm about things. So it's like I'm going to make that clearer from the beginning. So I thought that was really nice. And even I forgot what he said. I think Cabo kind of implied like, "Oh, Meow is going to be happy to hear about basically your thought on everything changing." And then Iori's gone blushing a little bit. He's like, "You think so?" And Cabo just kind of nods. And it's like, because I think he's probably also worried like maybe Meow would be pissed at him and stuff like that, and maybe she wouldn't be so forgiving of him. But now it's like, oh, like you think she'd be happy? It's like, yeah, because she wants you to have a different perspective, because it's also about you growing as well, because she knows how talented you are and she wants you to grow, but she doesn't want you to like cut yourself off for something good because you have your own preconceived notions about it. It's like, no, things are different. Let me show you how they're different. And she did, and now he's like, oh, okay, so like, there might be a lot more worthwhile to this than I kind of initially gave it credit. Obviously, Kabe's been texting him about like, yo, let's meet up and this and that, because he's still kind of putting down the dance class stuff, because he's kind of almost like, well, that's nothing, almost kind of like a, why would you even bother with that? Like, come hang out with us, and we're like, I can kind of teach you some stuff. And I wonder, is Kabe also coming from a perspective of maybe he was in a dance club that kind of like, he felt like, and maybe very much like Iori kind of felt like, oh, you stunted me, where it's just like, yeah, that's it's very regimented, it's its own thing, but it's like I prefer this style, so like I'm not it's not cohesive with what I want to do. And maybe Cabo was kind of shunned, like why he kind of looks down upon dance. Like I said, there might be a little bit of a parallel between him and Iori, or maybe he has even more of a negative connotation to like dance. I mean, because it also feels like, not unless we find out that, Kabe's just the rebel that he is, that he doesn't like authority and like having to kind of be uniform with someone else. It's like, I'm going to go my own way. So I'm going to do, like, people think like this and that. And it's like, no, I'm going to like go my own way with this. So like, you're either on board or you're not. I don't know. Like, it feels like that might be kind of a bit of Kabe's personality. We'll have to spend more time with it to kind of get a clearer picture on that, But yeah, while Meow and Wanda were like dancing and practicing, Cabo's watching her, and he's just like, "Wow, I gotta keep going, because like, look at her, she's in sync with Meow, and it's just like the gap between is getting bigger and bigger, and it's like I need to close that gap. I want, because he wants to, stay relatively close to her, and it's like if the gap is smaller between us, that means the gap is smaller between us not only in dance skills but just our dynamic and relationship." And funny enough, later on, she was practicing her breaking, and he saw her. She's like, "Oh, you saw that?" She's like, I want to be able to kind of keep up with you, and I don't want to fall behind." For Cabo, it's nice hearing that, because he's like, "Oh, it isn't just me. She's the exact same way as me. Like, neither one of us wants to fall behind the other, because she wants to be able to break and dance like him." But it's like, he admires her skills, she admires him. It's like, oh, you're a lot more similar than you kind of give yourself credit for. Like, because Cabo thinks like what he's thinking is just him. Never even crosses his mind like, oh, Wanda might be like on the opposite, like feeling the exact same way I am about a certain thing, because he doesn't, once again, he's not the most confident person, and because in his mind it's like, you're the excellent dancer, you're the great, so like I have to catch up to you. So it never crosses his mind like, wait, I'm doing something that you want to catch up with, because she enjoys dancing with him, and she's worried like, oh, but like if I don't get better at breaking, you're going to leave me behind, and I don't want that, because I like dancing with you and I want to keep dancing with you, so I want to get better at this as quickly as possible. So, and then we also have the ending where like Cabo kind of like turned down Kabe's offer, like, oh, let's hang out, and then like it seemed like that really irked Kabe, so it's kind of like immediately like ready for the competition. But it's like, yeah, like I said, I think it's just like he also doesn't like things not going his way, and he kind of feels like, oh, because Cabo in particular was kind of like, oh yeah, dance practice and stuff like that, so I'm sure all that kind of irked his nerves. Of like, okay, so he probably feels a little like yay about Cabo, but then hearing all this kind of maybe soured him a little bit, or maybe he's thinking like, oh, you're wasting your talents and your potential and stuff like that. I don't know. Like I said, we'll have to wait to explore more with Kabe in the future to see where things ultimately end up taking us. Excited to see what the next episode has in store for us. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.